All right, now it's time for a little fantasy football. We got our guy D Nasty back, week 16. Dave, how did your first week of playoffs go today? This week?
Okay, I lost a few close ones tonight though, which kind of hurt though. I made fantasy playoffs in 6 out of my 10 leagues. I will only be advancing or 3 or 4 of those leagues though now, which hurts quite a bit actually. I didn't start Ramad Stevenson in 2 of my leagues, so I lost in one of them because of that. Because he said he wasn't going to play at first, and then they said he'd be limited if he did play, and that would have been the game changer if I would have started him this week. So it kind of hurts.
Yeah, Ramondre pulled a fast one on everybody, it seemed. And I was surprised that he played as well. But I had some pretty bad luck in fantasy myself. I mean, there's some players, Dave, that really disappointed this week. I mean, I already talked a little bit about Miles Sanders. I mean, he had an awful fantasy week.
Jonathan
Um,
Taylor too, as well. I had him in one of my leagues, and that caused me to lose as well. Went on the second play of the game.
yeah, Taylor was terrible this whole year, to be honest with you. And then it checks out Stephon Diggs, 8 points. Amari Cooper, 7.8 points. Eckler, 15, which is eh. And then Josh Jacobs, even 12 points, and then Dalton Schultz, 2.5. Miles Sanders, 1.4. Robbie Gold only had 3 extra points. That's how bad it was for me. I played Carolina's defense in that league too, so it didn't really work out. But then, I'm playing guys like Justin Jefferson, 27 points, Tyreek Hill, 17.4 points in the snow and the wind. Latavius Murray, 23.7 points. Guys that you wouldn't expect to have a huge week this week, but they did. So it was kind of a bad luck week for me. Even had Kirk Cousins score 43 points, but it wasn't enough. when it rains, it pours, my man, but that's okay. We have obviously other leagues that we're in, and we're playing for different things. Obviously, some people are playing for draft picks. Some people are still playing for the championship. So let's get into it, Dave. Key injuries. Why don't you get started with key injuries?
Sounds good. I'd be happy to do that. Again, no buys this week, just in case you were wondering. One of the quarterback, Colt McCoy, concussion was ruled out against the Broncos. Tracy McSlaury came in for him and played, so he might be one of the guys you want to pick up this week. Caleb Huntley suffered an ankle injury, which led to a big day for Tyler Algier. We'll get into that in a minute here. And then quite a few injuries for your beloved Bears here. Equanimous St. Brown, the old Packer, concussion. Linebacker Jack Sanborn, who's been playing awesome, ankle injury. And quarterback Jalen Johnson with rib injury. So quite a few guys out for them. The main defensive star for the Cincinnati Bengals, too, Sam Hubbard's out with he suffered a left calf injury. And then a lot of defensive player injuries, not a lot of regular injuries this week. Ryan Tannehill went down with after being sacked and was cut off to the locker room with an ankle injury. Jalen Hurts with a right shoulder injury. He is questionable for this week. So that's the biggest one out there. That and the Tannehill injuries are the two biggest ones.
I don't think. I think they're just giving him rest and using his excuse. He finished that Bears game. Looked fine to me.
I think so too. They keep showing the play where he went down. The guy tackled him pretty hard on his right shoulder, but he was down for like a minute, but then he got back up, and then like you said, he played the rest of the game. I think it's the same thing too. I think that since Dallas lost, they pretty much clinched the spot. They just need one more win for home field, but I think they can do that against Dallas, even with Gardner Minshew starting. But it still hurts.
Well, they have two easy games afterwards. Well, Saints and the Giants.
Exactly. And they only need one more win to clinch home field, so it just makes sense. The rest hurts. I'd rest him if he's a little banged up. Save him for the playoffs. Maybe have him get some work in one of those last 2 games, maybe. But
it doesn't make sense for fantasy owners.
That's what I was just gonna say. I have him in my big money league that I finished first in the whole league, and I had a bye this week, and now I had no Hurts for my championship run next week to get to the Super Bowl. So it's disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. Caleb Huntley got hurt too with an ankle injury, so he played some.
That one already.
Denzel Mims with a concussion. He might have been picked up. Depends upon what your thoughts on Elijah Moore was. That's it. Yeah. Colt, like you said, Colt McCoy. So there wasn't a lot of serious injuries, but Jonathan Taylor is serious enough. But the dude, like I said, first pick of the draft, horrible this whole year. One of the worst busts in fantasy that I remember that wasn't due to an injury all the way up until this week. So no excuse for this injury. He wasn't putting up enough numbers. Waiver wire. Let's get into that. I have Gardner Minshew for the Eagles. I think he might be the biggest waiver wires because the Eagles are stacked, and I think he's going to put up some fantasy points this week. I mean, I would take him over at least half or 3/4 of the quarterbacks out there right now, and guys like Brett Rippon and Mitch Trubisky. I mean, there's plenty of players that he'll do better than second-rate guys out right now. Wide receiver KJ Osborne had 16 targets and a touchdown, but I will say with the caveat, Dave, that was the craziest games I've ever seen.
Oh my God, a lot of crazy finishes this week. I was not sad to see the Patriots lose at all, either on that Rashawn Jenkins or on the.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bad loss. It was a bad beat for them. It's funny it's fun to watch Belichick lose because he's kicked our butts so much over the years. But I didn't feel sorry.
The way they lost too is just crazy as well. On a lateral that goes wrong, Chandler Jones takes it to the house after he stiff arms Mac Jones. What could be even worse than that?
Oh, well, Matt Ryan giving up 33 points, not putting up just a few more points to win that game.
Yeah,
that was bad. Russell Gage, 12 targets and 2 touchdowns. I also got Jahan Dotson, and we've said him before, but he had 6 targets and a touchdown. Return of the Mac, Dave. Marlon Mack had 5 rushes and 4 receptions this week. So I thought that was interesting here. Marlon Mack.
Yeah,
thought he was toast, but he's back just for temporary. He might play a little bit this week. Running back Jalen Warren had 11 carries for Pittsburgh. Zach Moss for the Taylor injury, I think, is going to be big. Zach Moss seemed to get more carries this week than Deion Jackson. So, I mean, I'd say Deion Jackson too probably pick up, but Zach Moss seemed to be the guy this week. So that's what I have. What have I missing?
Yeah, and I definitely agree with the Moss and Deion Jackson pickups for sure. Those are 2 big ones. Brock Purdy only owned in 20% of leagues right now. He's been balling the last couple of weeks. Him and the Gardner Minshew are the 2 definitely guys that you can plug in this week and help you win. Tyler Algier with the Huntley injury, he went off this past week. He had 138 rushing yards and 17 attempts, and did against a good, tough New Orleans defense too. That's no pushover. So definitely a guy you want to take a look at. And then Algier outperformed Cordell Patterson as well, who only had 52 yards on 14 carries. So Algier had a nice day this past week. Chuba Hubbard, we mentioned him last week. Just throwing him out there again. He had a good week again. He's getting a large percentage of the shares, 63% of the snaps, compared to only 30% for Foreman. So looks like he's taking over that backfield definitely. And then we got Treylon Burks, who's coming back now from injury. He might help you win a few games. He saw 6, 8, and 6 targets, and he went for 111 yards in week 11 before he got hurt. So definitely got to keep on your board. Tight end that actually has been under the wire a little bit, but I think is a little underrated right now. I'm going to butcher this name, but Chigoziem Okonoko from the Titans. He's actually become a weapon for the Titans, and he's startable in this matchup this upcoming week. They play the Houston Texans, so good matchup he has this week. As he's got at least 45 yards receiving in each of the past 3 contests. So, and they have been going to him quite a bit. He's now been targeted at least 5 times in 4 straight outings. So if you need a tight end to plug in this week, he's definitely a guy you can take. And a streaming defense too that recommend this week is the Titans. They host the Texans, who likes to turn over the ball a lot. Davis Mills had a turnover in 7 consecutive starts, which is just horrible. So definitely, if you need a defense this week, the Houston Texans is the defense to grab.
Oh, that's a brutal thing to have to start as the Texans. That's some desperation right there. But I understand what you're saying. Well, let's move right into non-starters trending up then, Dave. Why don't you get started?
Non-starter trending up. I like. There's a few guys I like this week, actually. I like Jared Goff, actually. You wouldn't think of him as an everyday starter, but he's been playing well. He hasn't had any turnovers in, like, I think the last 4 or 5 games, they were saying. So definitely a guy I like who's trending up. Some other guys here I like too. Trevor Lawrence, if he's not starting, he should be, because he's been just balling the last couple weeks. He's got a tough matchup this week against the Jets, but I still like him this week, even against a tough defense. He's a guy that's trending up for me right now. Another guy that's trending up is Tyler Boyd for the Bengals. He had a touchdown this past week. He's been playing well. The tight end I just discussed for the Titans, he's trending up against that poor Houston defense. Ryan Tannehill as well, who you normally wouldn't start. I'm starting him this week if he is starting against that poor Houston Texans defense. Another guy that's trending up, Osborne for the Vikings. I like him a lot, the wide receiver for the Vikings against the Giants. Giants still don't have that great of a defense, even though they did get pretty lucky in some questionable calls against the Commanders this past week. I like him as trending up this week. Another guy I like that's trending up, Deontay Johnson. He should be a starter most of this year, but he had one of his best games this past week. I'm sorry. And then he does play the Raiders this week, actually, too, which is a nice matchup, actually. So I like him trending up this week as well. A guy that just came back this week who looked good tonight, actually, Romeo Doubs for the Green Bay Packers. He's been out the last 4 weeks. He came back tonight. He looked good in limited time tonight. 4 catches for 55 yards. So definitely a guy trending up against that poor Dolphins defense. The Broncos, Brett Rippon, you wouldn't think of, but Rams defense is just not good with no Aaron Donald in there. I like Brett Rippon this week against that port, and then Tavius Murray as well, who had over 100 yards this past week, and it is a nice waiver wire pickup if he's still out there against that poor Rams D. And I do like Rashad White against that poor Cardinals defense.
There you go. Yep, I like those. Romeo Doubs should have a good game against Miami. Christian Watson and Aaron Rodgers this week, Dave. Miami's defense, as you know, isn't so good, especially in the secondary. I like those 3 guys trending up this week. I like Richie James against Minnesota, Chris Moore versus the Titans. I think you did mention the Texans, maybe even Davis Mills if you're really desperate. Maybe you have Jalen Hurts and the cupboard is bare. Could take a flyer on Davis Mills. I'm just saying the Titans give up.
Texans have been playing really well these last 2 weeks. Actually, they almost beat they almost beat Dallas 2 weeks ago, and then they almost won this past week as well against 2 tough teams. So
yeah, it's so weird. They're getting outgained bad, but they're just hanging in there. It's just really interesting to watch. So I agree. It's almost like they're still somewhat motivated. Let's say. Quarterback Mike White versus the Jaguars is a good one. The Jaguars don't have a great passing defense.
Mike White is going to be out this week, though, probably. So Zach Wilson is who you want to start.
I'm not sure if he is, though. It's a Thursday game. That he missed that 1 week for concussion. I think he still could play, Dave.
No, it's his ribs, they said. Ribs is why he didn't play this past week. The doctors wouldn't clear him because they said the broken rib could puncture his lung. So they're saying that he's probably still not going to be cleared in time for the Thursday night game. So Zach Wilson probably will start. So if he's out there in any of your leagues, definitely pick him up because he had over 300 yards this past week and looked pretty good, actually.
All right, well, good call there. I thought White might make it back. And so if he doesn't, then I don't like Zach Wilson personally. I think Zach Wilson's a bust. I don't think he's a good quarterback at all. So we'll make sure I say that. But I agree with the rest of everything you said. I think that Demarcus Robinson maybe versus Atlanta could be good for the Ravens. I really hope Lamar comes back, Dave. So what do you think of Lamar's chances coming back?
I think that's really iffy because they said that injury that he has usually is about 2 to 3 weeks, they said. So he'd be borderline coming back this week. But I think for sure next week he's probably back, but he's probably doubtful for this week, I would say.
Okay, well maybe Huntley can get him past Atlanta. That's a good matchup for J.K. Dobbins, too. Atlanta's got a bad defense. I think J.K. Dobbins should do pretty well this game. I hope Lamar comes back, but we'll see. Let's move into busts then. I have running back Tony Pollard versus the Eagles. I know he's been great for people this year and a nice surprise, but this could be the week he, lets down because the Eagles, might just focus on their defense now if they don't have Jalen Hurts and kind of shut them down a little bit. The Eagles got a pretty good defense when they want to be. Running back Miles Sanders versus the Cowboys defense too. I had a bad week with Miles Sanders this week, and I'm not sure if he'll have a good week next week. Cowboys are number 2 against the run right now, Dave. So I don't really love that one. Travis Etienne versus the Jets D. That worries me a little bit this week. The Jaguars might be in a little bit of a letdown here after the big Cowboys win and big comeback. So I'm a little concerned for Travis Etienne. I'm very concerned for James Conner owners. He's got to play Tampa this week. And, Tampa's pissed after turning the ball over. Another massive comeback last week in the nutty game of the NFL football. But I think James Conner is kind of toast this year now, and they're out of the playoffs. They could start resting him for next year. So keep that in mind at some point here. Running back Cam Akers versus Denver. I don't like him at all either. I think that you saw him struggle against even Green Bay, who's bad against the run. So I'm not a big Cam Akers guy this week. Christian Kirk either versus the Jets. I don't like Christian Kirk for the Jaguars versus Jets. And I don't like Nick Chubb, believe it or not, against the Saints. I think Nick Chubb owners might be a little bit worried. Dave, where your bus?
No, I agree with you on a lot of yours, actually. I don't like Cam Akers this week against tough Denver D. I don't like Connor this week either. I agree with you on those. Miles Sanders, I had him in one of my leagues this week. And I had him and Jacobs on the same team. They both were bust this week, and I ended up losing. I was best team in the league with the top record and the top overall points, and I ended up losing this week due to some busts this week by a couple of guys. I don't like the Washington Red Commanders either this week against the 49ers. Henneke or Robinson or Gibson. I don't like any of those guys against the 49ers this week. I think they struggle against that tough 49ers D. Patriots, I think they struggle a little bit against the Bengals. Bengals have been balling on defense lately. I think the Patriots struggle a little bit. I think Mac Jones struggles against that Bengals defense this week. Also, I don't like the Bears against the tough Buffalo D. I think Fields and Montgomery both struggle a little bit running the ball against that tough Buffalo D. And also, I do agree with you on that Travis Etienne. I don't like him against the Jets' tough run defense. I think Trevor Lawrence still has a good day, though.
Yeah, we'll see. He could. It's just a little bit of a bad spot for him. But Lawrence has been balling, and the Jaguars want to win that division, and now they definitely can't after beating the Cowboys. The Titans have a kind of hard, and they have to play the Cowboys in a week or two. So think about that. That brings us to our nasty sleeper, Dave, and mine really pains me because he's one of your boys, Aaron Rodgers. I got to go with this week. I know. Well, here's the thing. I mean, I'm not sure if it's going to be Christian Kirk or Randall Cobb or who's that? Watson. Somebody's getting touchdowns, but this is Miami, and Miami scores a lot of points, and it's going to force Packers score a lot of points. It's going to be a possible shootout. I mean, it's going to be a very cold week this week, right? So you're not really excited to start quarterbacks or anybody in these northern games. The Clevelands, the Pittsburghs, the Chicagos, right? But a team like this going to Miami, where you might get some really nice weather for winter football, that you got to take a look at it. Aaron Rodgers versus Miami, man.
I like it. I was actually going to go Watson, but I changed it up at the last minute. I'm going J.K. Dobbins against the Falcons. With Huntley playing, that they're struggling on offense, but Dobbins is back. He's looking healthy. He's looking more and more like that dominating back that he was before that injury. So I'm going with J.K. Dobbins as my D-Nasty sleeper of the week, even though I wanted to do Watson, but I'm going Dobbins instead.
All right, man. Well, I like it. I understand it, and that makes sense. I think Dobbins was mine last week, and the Ravens really had a bad game plan. They threw the ball all day when they were just running all over them. So they were able to run on them, and I think they were getting like 6 yards per rush, and they just had a bad game plan. I think they turned it up this week with Dobbins, so I agree with that, Dave. Anything we missed for fantasy football week 16?
No, I don't think so. Just make sure you get those lineups in. Good luck, everyone, in those championships this week. Hopefully, you get to that Super Bowl, and let's looking forward to some Christmas Day games. Packers on Christmas Day.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun week, and obviously Christmas Day games going to be great. Make sure you get your lineups in by, of course, Thursday, but definitely Saturday if you're questioning, because most of the games are on Saturday. So keep in mind there's 4 games on Christmas Day. All right. Thanks so much. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us at the Oddsbreakers at info@theoddsbreakers.com. Enjoy the rest of your week and go get some winners.
Happy holidays.